What's up, everybody? This is Matt with United Black Voters.
This is Ivory from United Black Voters.
Yeah, so today we wanted to kind of take a quick second to talk about the plane crash. You want to talk a little bit about what happened, Ivan?
Yeah, first off, hearts go out to the families, people who lost their family and loved ones due to you know, this situation. Just want to take politics out and just really say our hearts, our prayers and thoughts go out to those who've been affected by this situation. So just hearts go out to the families.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and I say the same thing as well too. I think as of right now, I think they recovered 40 bodies. I think it was 64 people in the passenger plane. I'm not sure how many people were in the helicopter, in the military helicopter, the Black Hawk. I'm not sure, but our hearts definitely go out to the families.
Yeah, and they said it was about 60 people. They're not expected to have any survivors. So that means everyone who was on those planes, it's a good likelihood that they lost their lives. And man, I know you was talking about this earlier about mental errors and blunders and things like that, unforced errors. Share a little bit more about what you were telling me about earlier.
Yeah, so what I'm saying too, I mean, just highlighting what happened, obviously, you had a military helicopter crash into a commercial passenger plane, right? In DC. Is it by the Potomac? It's the Potomac River. I can't. But anyway, you had that crash, and obviously, it's kind of an uproar because it's kind of shocking to see something like that. And I think the thought that I really that came to my mind was that people got to really understand that there was a lot of massive layoffs really fast. And you're going to see a lot of these things happen. That's the thought process. It's like watching your favorite football team and the center is out and the snap is off, or your favorite receiver is out and then it's not good enough timing with the replacement. I think what's actually really happening is that a lot of people were laid off, or a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of changes in some of these departments. No matter how you feel about that, one consequence of that is you will have a lot of issues, a lot of mental errors, a lot of mistakes, a lot of blunders, and just more accidents and these kind of things as time goes on.
Yeah, and a business and the government, that's why they're different because businesses, obviously, their main goal is to make profit and to cut costs for efficiency purposes. I don't believe you can run a business how you run the government in the same way, where you just like, all right, we got these regulations here, and we're just going to cut these regulations and get rid of the waste. But those regulations were put there as protections. There's a reason why we have certain protections, is to protect us to have clean water, have more safety, traffic in terms of safety and traffic, but it's there for a reason. And so I know right now a lot of people are up in arms, but I think we have to think common sense here and say, well, why do we have the regulation? And is that regulation outdated? Do we need to update it before we just go ahead and start cutting stuff?
Yeah, and I'll say this part too. Good points, Ivory. When you cut things this fast, you will have a lot of unintended consequences. So I think this is a really horrible accident. Like I said, our hearts go out to the families. But this is probably not the end of these type of situations, these type of things happening across the country. You will probably have an uptick in these type of accidents that higher than we had before, simply due to the fact that it's a lot of changes very, very fast, and government is not typically designed to, take those type of hits that fast or those type of changes that quickly.
Yeah, and I would second that. When you hear anybody saying cut regulations, that's code word for cut consumer protections. And that's something that we have to be up in alarms about because, again, the business of the government is not the same as the business of a private corporation. And the protections are there for a reason. And that's something that a lot of people just they don't really factor in when they think about, oh, let's just get rid of this waste over here. Of course, there's waste, there's fraud, there's abuse across the board. And I do think those things need to be investigated, and we need to figure out ways to cut those things down or eliminate altogether. However, when it comes to protection of our water, when it comes to protection of in the air, national security, we have to be much more cognizant and aware of what we're cutting and why we're cutting. Are we cutting for vindictive reasons or just because to keep some campaign promise? Or are we cutting because it doesn't make sense and it's outdated and it needs to be a new law or some new thing to outdo that? So that's my 2 cents with that.
Yeah, I couldn't have said any better. like I said, I think you explained it pretty well. Any big takeaway or one takeaway that you would say about the situation that you want the viewers who are watching this video trying to figure out what's going on to walk away with?
Yes. So I would say this. It's a tough time right now in our country. A lot of people are up in arms about a lot of new changes that's happening. And I don't think that humans, we're not built to be taking change at large scale like this. We're used to change that's slow over time, incremental changes. But the changes that's happening now is too hard for a lot of people to process that. So what I would say is just think about your own life. When we think about our own lives, when we slow down and actually really think about it. And you go back to COVID, when we talked about during COVID times, what did most people do? We had time to think, we had time to process and figure out what's more important to us. And we
Mhm.
made better decisions when we did that. It never hurts you to sit back and really evaluate and think about before you make that cut or before you divorce this person or before you quit this job. Think about those unintended consequences because it has dire consequences to that. So again, my heart goes out to the families, and I'll be praying for the families for sure. I just think this is something that we can take away from this is that a little bit more time and thinking thoroughly about what we're thinking about instead of just making massive cuts and changes. I think that helps save some lives.
Yeah, and I think my biggest takeaway essentially is the fact that you're going to see a lot of this. I think you're going to have a lot of people with conspiracy theories. You're going to have people, you know, pretty much, arguing with each other about what happens. Going to be a lot of blaming. But just keep in mind that a lot of this is happening because there's a lot of changes. Anytime, like you said, Ivory, things change very fast. These type of things happen. And just take that away, like, hey, you know what? Changes, when you have changes very rapidly, very fast, historically speaking, it does not lead to good outcomes because people just don't have enough time to adjust. And you get more accidents and increase in all the things sometimes that you don't want, even if you are cutting the waste. But thank you for tuning in. Just keep, tune back in tomorrow. We're always covering these topics, and we always try to help you kind of get through, for lack of a better word, the BS. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you get a chance to, we have a survey here to kind of see what are the issues that you care about, right? What are the kind of issues that you want to bring forth in future elections and things like that. Make sure you click on that link in the description and fill it out when you get a chance. Take care, everybody.